Hi, I'm Sunny. I'm Sonlight Curriculum's Community and Social Media Manager, but I'm also a Sonlight mom. So today I have my high school student, Brielle, joining me to talk with you about what homeschooling in high school with Sonlight is really like. So Brielle, why don't you tell everyone how long you have been homeschooled with Sonlight?
I've been homeschooled since I was 3 years old.
Yeah, so she's been a Sonlight kid her entire education, and she is currently using Sonlight's American History for High School program that's level 100, along with the American Historical Literature Language Arts. So we'll talk a little bit about how Sonlight's high school programs work, but you can mix and match your history, Bible, literature with your language arts package, and then Sonlight also carries math programs, science, electives, all the things you're going to need to round out your high school transcript. So currently Brielle is using an all subjects package is what we call it at Sonlight. And I haven't had to look outside of what Sonlight carries for even her elective classes. So Brielle, let's talk about how a Sonlight high school program works. Do I stand over you and teach you? We're literature based. Can you explain what that actually means?
So when you're in high school, the program does not, it comes with 2 instructor's guides. The parent one,
instructor's guide.
and then I have another one in a smaller binder that is the student version. So the parent guide has all the answers in it, but the student version of the guide does not. It only has like the questions and how many pages you're supposed to read. So I like that, how it doesn't have the answers in it, because then I can just get in there and see what I need to see.
Yeah, so she uses her student instructor's guide. It has the schedule as far as what pages you're reading and what book when, and then it has discussion questions after that. So Sonlight parents choose to use those in a variety of ways. In our case, I let her do her schoolwork when she wants to, which oftentimes is late at night in her bed. And so she writes down her answers to the discussion questions. So that way, during the day, when we're both awake, I can have those discussions with her and make sure she's learning. So a common question is, what does literature-based learning look like? It's very different than tests and things that you might be familiar with in high school. So Brielle, how do I know that you're learning what you need to know using Sonlight?
I get the answers to the questions right. That's how you know. And my math tests, obviously, if I get good grades on those, I'm learning my math. And same thing for science, but math and science are the only things that there are tests for. Nothing else has a test assigned to it.
Yeah, so the rest of it is all discussion based. So for Bible, for example, she has a Bible study book and then usually another Bible topic book along with actual Bible readings and scripture memorization. So we'll discuss the Bible study books and the additional books, as well as find out, okay, what did you read about? And then she'll quote the memory verses. In Sonlight's high school levels, oftentimes it's full chapters that a student learns over multiple weeks. But if she can quote those verses and can answer the questions in the Bible study book, and they make sense with what that scripture passage is about, then I know she understood what she was supposed to. And then same thing with history. She has a history spine, which is kind of the main history text, but then also literature, which Sonlight uses a lot of historical fiction that ties into that time period. Something that Sonlight does is we utilize a timeline book. So you actually plot points on the timeline, and it's beginning of time till like 20 years from now. And so that way the student is
30.
able to see, okay, 30 years from now. That way the student is able to see what historical events were happening at the same time. And then for language arts, we are doing American Historical Literature. That is the recommended language arts program to go along with the history, but Sonlight's high school programs are very mix and match. So you can choose, British literature while you're learning about 20th century world history. You can do American history and then do classic literature. I mean, it's really up to you and your student to decide what they want to study and what they need to study for their credits. Sonlight has 5 history Bible literature programs and 6 language arts programs right now, and that's going to cover pretty much any credit you want or need your student to do, whether it be for a college application, a state requirement, or just because you want them to know about a certain topic. And then what are some of the things you do besides just answer questions to go along with your language arts literature?
So in language arts, I also have papers. So every week, minus like big research projects, it's a different paper. When I was reading To Kill a Mockingbird, I wrote like 3 papers on that book. But sometimes the papers don't have anything to do with the book you're reading. I've had to write journal entries. I've had to write persuasive, argumentative papers. So it doesn't always go along with the book, but it's, yeah.
But it often does. Yeah, you do literary analysis, or like you said, it might be, okay, we're going to write a persuasive essay about this topic, or research projects. You usually get 3 or 4 weeks that you're working on a research project. And the nice thing that I like is in this parent instructor's guide, which looks nice and huge and hefty and all of that, it gives me all of the guidelines that I need to properly evaluate her writing. So you don't have to come into it already being, an English professor to be able to evaluate your students' writing. They're going to be doing different types of writing, and the instructor's guide provides all the information about how to complete that assignment, as well as grading rubrics. So yes, it's still literature based and you're not taking a test, but you will know how to grade a student's paper and grade it appropriately based on high school level work. Because I think sometimes as parents, we get intimidated with, oh, high school, we need to get them ready for college. How are we going to do that? And this is something that I think Sonlight does really well in the instructor's guides. Also, like I mentioned, we provide math, we provide science. There's different programs to choose from. Again, so that you can look at your transcript, what classes you need to complete, and then you can choose from our website, just like you would a course catalog in a regular school. It makes it very easy, and it's highly customizable to the credits your student either already has or needs or wants. Since Brielle's been a Sonlighter since preschool, we've really been able to choose whatever we wanted to do every year because we were already homeschooling. But even if you come into Sonlight as a high school student, it's very easy to customize your package. So let's talk about, though, how to customize maybe how you learn it. As I mentioned, we are a literature-based program. And some people might be saying, oh, I don't like to read. My student really doesn't like to read. Is literature-based for me? So what are some ways that you have modified your Sonlight when you didn't want to read all the books? Or what are some ideas for parents that are questioning that right now?
Yeah, so I find it's a lot of reading. I'm reading like 6 or 7 books at one time. So I like to, if I can find the audiobook, which is not always the case, but when I can, I like to get the audiobook from the library, because then I can listen to that one while I'm going around and doing chores or math or something like that. And it's less reading.
Right. And then you're still getting it done, which is something she loves. She is a Sonlight kid. She loves to read, but she prefers audiobooks. So oftentimes that is what she'll do while she's doing other things. Another thing, like I said earlier, is I let her do school when she wants, because she has her own version of the IG that doesn't include answers to those discussion questions. You can work late at night. You can work anytime you want, really, right? How long, Brielle, would you say it takes you to do a full day's worth of school, do you think?
Probably about like 4.5 hours.
Okay. Yeah. So probably about 4 to 4.5 hours. Like I said, she does a lot of it at night, and then we usually will meet in the evening or the late afternoon. Oftentimes Sunday afternoon is a great time for us to go through the whole week. From a parent standpoint, I need maybe 30 minutes for each day in her instructor's guide. Each week is scheduled 5 days at a time, but of course you as the homeschool parent get to decide, is each one of those an actual day, Monday through Friday? Are you working around, a part-time job or something and shifting your schedule? You can absolutely do that. But for each of her instructor's guide days, and I also grade her math, we go over science, we do all the subjects. In that time, it's about 30 minutes for me and about 4 hours for her. So still, even though it's, of course, a much heavier course load than what you would have in elementary or middle school, it's still way less time than most high school students spend at school. So you're able to manage your own time. You learn a lot about time management. I mean, do I ever really have to prod you or teach you anything with a Sonlight high school course?
Not really. Well, verses and maps.
Yeah, so sometimes she might forget things. That's where a highlighter is super helpful. She mentioned the map points. I forgot to say that each of our programs includes geography along with it. So if you're reading a book that's set in the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma, you're going to find Oklahoma on the map and learn the geography of that place as well. Same thing with any literature. If it mentions a certain city or a certain country, you're going to be doing geography with that too. And sometimes she might forget to mark on her map. There's several maps that go with each of the books where the students, will find the locations. And so you can highlight it on your IG. They're paper, they're easy to write on, or put a sticky note by, or anything like that to remind a student.
I have a bright pink pen that I always circle the little map icon, the memorization, and the current events.
Yes, so current events, that's something else that Sonlight includes in the history Bible literature component, is a certain number of current events reports each week. And you can do that however you like. Some of our Sonlight families have their student write an actual paper. Because she's doing so many thorough writing assignments in language arts, I oftentimes just have her find the information out and then share the who, what, why, where, when, how with me, just to make sure she knows what's going on in the world. But that is something that, because Sonlight is literature-based and discussion-based, we want to make sure students are really prepared and equipped for adult life, and that they know what's going on, and that they're able to form their own opinions on issues, whether it be political or economic or whatever is happening in the world at any given moment. We want them to be informed, but then also to have and develop those critical thinking skills and be able to determine what their opinions are, which I think for me, that's one of my favorite things about Sonlight.
Talking about opinions, can we talk about the questions that are like, what do you think about this?
Oh, yes. So you might be thinking, when we talk about discussion questions, what do we mean discussion questions? Is it just what year did the United States get involved in World War II?
And there's some questions like that.
There are some questions like that, but there might be more about, what do you think about so-and-so's political reform policy because of this? Or what
do you think about women's rights? It's stuff like that.
Yeah, and then you put it into the time and place of what you're studying as well. So in the 1820s, here's where people stood in America versus the 1920s, and how do you feel today? How is that still relevant today? And it's very open-ended. So while Sonlight does give you prompts and explains how you might answer a question, if your child asks you, well, what does this mean? It gives you plenty of detailed information for you to explain those things. There's also those open-ended questions that allow you and your child to discuss what you believe is a family and what you think is the right thing. And oftentimes, if she's not quite sure how to answer, she'll say, well, I don't know how I'll feel about that. And
I had to ask you to remind me what capitalism is a few times.
Yes, yeah, or what's capitalism, things like that. But it gives us the chance to talk about that. And I'll always say, well, there's not a wrong answer. Tell me what you think. And we'll talk about both sides of this, and kind of, if you don't know what you think about it, let's learn what other people thought about it. And all of that information, again, is in your instructor's guide. So to me, she is learning so much more than I did as a high school student, where I just memorized facts for a test and then promptly forgot it all, because we're actually talking about the issues that were happening in that historical time period, how they relate to today. What is she going to do when she is now of an age to vote, and all of the different things like that are coming pretty soon. So for us, Sonlight has been great in that regard. But what do we love about Sonlight? Why we started this when you were 3 years old? Why are we still using Sonlight? Why do we love it so much? What would you tell other high school students who maybe are saying, I don't know if I want to be homeschooled, or I don't know if I can do this at home, or any of those things? What would you tell them?
I love how it's structured but flexible at the same time. If you use everything that's provided, it's very structured, but you're able to spread it out. You can pick what you want to do. I like to do it at night, because I'm more awake at night than I am during the day. So it's easier for me to focus on my schoolwork at 2 a.m. than it is at 2 p.m. So
yeah, and we're absolutely not saying you have to be doing it in the middle of the night. That may not work for some kids, but Sonlight is highly, highly customizable. Like we said earlier, you can choose a program based on what credits you need to graduate, and what you're interested in studying. I know for me, I've always been an avid reader, so the fact that I get to have conversations with my daughter about books, that is amazing for me as a mom. And to see a high school student who does enjoy reading and can have really deep conversations, I think that's something that as she's gotten older and we've done the high school level now in Sonlight, is that we've seen that the things she's learning, like I said, the depth and the width and all the things of her knowledge are so much greater than mine were as a high school student. And I feel like we're equipping you for adult life much better.
I also like how like the discussion questions, how can they can lead us to talking about other things. We ended up talking about a movie that's going to come out soon when we were originally talking about World War II.
So that's a great point too. We have like fun time talking together, and not that you can't have that relationship if you're not homeschooling with Sonlight, but I think the discussions that we have had in all of our years of Sonlight have made us very close, even though we have very different personalities. We share common interests, but our personalities are highly, highly different. But we're able to have conversations both about serious topics, but then also fun topics, or we'll text each other, hey, I saw this article about this, and this is what you were just learning about. And so it's really fun for me. I am not reading all of her books. I'm also homeschooling her younger brother who's in elementary school, and he requires a lot more teaching at this point. But because of this parent instructor's guide, I'm able to see thorough notes on books that I haven't read yet. And I'm able to have those conversations with her, even though she's the one actually reading everything. Is there anything else you want to say, or that you would tell a high school student or their parents about homeschooling in high school? What your favorite thing is in general, or about Sonlight?
I like the history. It's really good.
Yeah, I would agree. If you like history already, or if you don't like history because you've been using boring textbooks, you will be
not a textbook.
On Sonlight's website. We do have recommendations, but our recommendations are kind of an age range: 8th to 10th grade, 9th to 11th grade, 10th through 12th. That way you can pick a program that's going to be at your student's level, but it's also going to fulfill whatever credit requirements they have, whether that be American government and economics or a world history course. Geography, like I said, is included in all of them, so you can get your credits there. We do carry multiple math programs and levels. We carry multiple science programs and levels. So next year we'll be dissecting the frog and doing all the things. But that's something too that a lot of people think they have to outsource certain subjects. But because Sonlight provides such great materials, I feel comfortable that if I have to relearn something to help her, I can. But so much of it, the information is provided for me. So I do not need to be a math genius. I don't need to be an astrophysicist. I don't need to have read 3,000 books. I'm still able to teach her.
Well, hey, at least I don't want to be an astrophysicist.
Yes,
so you don't have to learn how to be an astrophysicist.
Exactly. Keep your options open. Look at all the different things Sonlight has to offer. Our website is sonlight.com. That's SONLIGHT. Go over there and check it out. We offer promotions throughout the year. So if you're looking at sales, or we offer payment plans, things like that to make your curriculum more affordable. But I can tell you with certainty from our experience that you will love it. Plus, Sonlight actually offers a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're kind of on the fence and you're not sure if you can do it, I highly encourage that you check that out on our website. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to our advisors there or email us at main@sonlight.com. And we would love to answer your questions or give you tips and tricks. But as you've heard from my high schooler, it's a great curriculum. We are planning to graduate her with Sonlight, and her younger brother, who isn't even in high school yet, that's the path and the plan we have for him as well. But I do not doubt her ability to do whatever she wants to as an adult because of Sonlight. Also, after you've used several of Sonlight's high school programs, you are eligible for scholarships, and Sonlight does give out college scholarships as well. So that's something to look at too. Thank you so much for joining us today.